All right, welcome, guys. I hope you are having a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're in the world. Welcome to the Brand Identity Design Business Podcast. My name is Jason. I'm your host, and we have been currently doing this series called as the Dark Side of Entrepreneurship for almost 1.5, and I think it's about to become 2 years very soon. The aim of my show is to educate entrepreneurs such as yourself, myself, about business, share ideas, recommend strategies on how to deal with adversities while running a business. And sometimes, we also speak about interesting topics like the one which you see right now, crafting brand experiences for all five senses. Now, I want to actually let you guys know that we would be doing a mini series with Izzy, dissecting each of these five senses one at a time. We have a little limitation on time because Izzy has a busy schedule, so I have scheduled that interview from November 29th to December 27th. So, this specific episode will be just an overview, and once we are done with the overview, we will be crafting individual episodes, getting into every detail specifically. So I would be sequencing everything on my podcast library automatically. I'm also doing a small mini series with Phyllis, starting from tomorrow for another 5 to 6 weeks. If you're interested in that, please follow me. Please hit on the follow button and click on the bell icon. I think you would be notified each time I have an event posted up. All right, so let's actually get into today's conversation. So, crafting brand experiences for all five senses with Isabelle Poirier. I hope is easy. I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. I really struggled getting a hold of it. All right, I think it is accurate.
You did
Poirier.
good. You did good.
All right, and we will be exploring the realm of immersive branding with Izzy. She's a brand designer, certified brand architect, based in Ottawa, Canada. And in this six-part mini series, we lay the foundation by exploring the essence of multisensory branding, why it matters in today's competitive landscape, and Izzy will be happy to share her insights and expertise on the impact of multisensory branding, transcending the visual to craft an unforgettable brand experiences. You'll be discovering how sound, touch, taste, smell, sight converge into a force, which emotionally connects and resonate with your audience, your consumers, to the brand. So I appreciate each and everyone who is listening to this conversation. I'm really pumped up because this is actually something new, which I am not very familiar with, and I'm really curious to know from Izzy what this thing is all about. So let's actually get into this. So Izzy, my first question to you is about multisensory branding. What is it, and how does it differ from traditional branding, which is out there?
I think you mentioned, well, you said that it was new. It's very new. The fact that it's in the branding sense, I think multisensory touch points and marketing was there, but essentially, multisensory branding is a strategic approach that integrates sensory elements, including all the senses, you mentioned them, into a brand experience. And it aims to create a lasting and distinctive impression to engage those senses to evoke emotion with the audience on a deeper level.
That is incredible. So is the objective is a brand's objective to tap into all the five senses, like how we tap into all the marketing touch points? Is there something similar to that? Is that what the objective is? That every company should tap into all those five senses to create something immersive?
I would say so. I mean, with marketing, it because marketing does not necessarily last a long time. It was like events or touch points or booths or stuff like that that would offer those senses. When you intentionally bring senses into a full branding strategy, and you have that on a repeating basis for the audience. I mean, it's brand consistency as we know already, but it like I said, it helps to have a deeper connection. when we think about music, how music has a sense to, like, to with people whenever they're watching a movie, or even a smell, right? How smell can create that idea of nostalgia. If you can create an experience like that with a brand, imagine the impact that you can create on your audience.
Okay, now this is very interesting because I have noticed a few brands being very dominating to one specific sense. So let's take an example of Harley Davidson. Okay, the way the engine rumbles, the twin engine, it has a very distinctive noise which it produces. So you can point out that's a Harley Davidson very far away, very early on, and you remember it. So if the company were to tap into all those senses, do you think they can make it a little bit overwhelming for the consumer and maybe make it very distractive, like, it's like too many things to focus on rather than just focus on one thing? What is your thought on that?
So I think it needs to be intentional, right? Like if it feels forced, then it becomes like gimmicky. So it needs to be part of the storytelling. It needs to be part of the whole, like, identity, the full entity also of the brand. Like Harley Davidson, as you mentioned, yes, there's the sound. I personally could not recognize the sound of a Harley Davidson to save my life, because that's not something that I like.
You're
But
not
I'm
into
thinking,
motorcycles for sure.
no, I'm sorry. I'm very much a girly girl. Um, but I'm thinking about, even McDonald's, right? Like they will use the same cleaning products everywhere. So then as soon as you enter, like you can smell that specific smell, right? Like before even smelling the burgers or fries or whatsoever. They will have a specific color palette in all of their restaurants, if you can call that restaurants.
Yeah.
They will, like, that there's a sound, like there's a specific type of music that will be playing because it is tailored to their audience. There's also that touching, experience. I'm specifically thinking for the kids meal, right? Like that pleasure of unpacking the toy and unpack, like, opening up that mini box of, nuggets and dipping it, like there's that whole experience, holistic experience. This is not forced, it's part of their offering, but it feels like there's an attention to detail into those sensory touch points.
Mm. That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm with you. So, I mean, McDonald's are doing it, but they are being very intentional about where they want to actually offer this experience at. So you kind of agreeing with me, right? If you were to tap into all those five senses at one stretch, like if we go all in, it could be a little gimmicky, right? It would not do the job properly, I guess.
It can definitely be overwhelming, and also a challenge that business owners are facing now is with the whole inclusivity, like values that we're seeing. An overpowering smell can also not be inclusive to some people who have sensitivities. So it's all about finding that right balance and knowing your audience at the end of the day.
That is super cool. Now let's dissect this down, okay? Would you mind sharing a few examples of such brands who have incorporated some of these elements into their identity? Now you did share some of the examples, like you said McDonald's. You spoke about Harley Davidson. I think I gave that example. What other companies? Let's dissect it down. Let's take sound as a sense. Could you share some examples of companies you feel are very distinctive with their approach and they're trying to tap into their identity with this?
So I don't know if it's a brand that is known worldwide, but they were doing really well. I don't think they are anymore, which is sad. But David's Tea, which is a tea company, at their store, you would have a full wall of tints of a tea with, and it was a very minimalistic, simple branding with the name of the teas like on the wall. It was really well done. And if before you buy, they would offer you to smell the tea, because smell has a really big indicator with taste. So you would have that engagement with the um, person over the counter, right? Like a full conversation. Like, what do you feel like? Do you like sweet? Do you like green tea? And then they would make you smell, and it would create that sense of wanting to eat the tea almost. It was like
Oh.
fancy, like poopery, if you want.
Okay, so you're not referring to sound, but you're referring to the example for smell, right?
Smell, sorry, yeah, sound. I looked at my list and I'm like, hold on, I need to think about it a bit more.
What's the name of this company again? You said the one, the tea
It's
company?
called David Tea.
David Tea. Okay.
I think it's a Canadian brand, so maybe that's why.
All right, all right. Guys, who are listening to this conversation live, if you're able to find David T, put a picture up on the event notes. I think that would help a lot of other individuals listening to this conversation. Okay, so David T, you like the fact that it offers a very distinctive smell, and people feel like they are actually having the tea, like eating it. Give us some more other examples wherein maybe people might be able to relate a bit more. Maybe companies that are a little famous, if you have.
Yes, I mean, Lush Cosmetics is a good one because you can smell them from like a mile away if you're in a big mall. And as soon as you walk in their store, I mean, it's a tapestry of colors, right? And you can touch, feel the texture. You can even try on the the products. There's even some like bowls of water that you can try the bad bombs. And there's that whole experience where you get to experiment it before even buying, which is again like they're using senses in order to make you buy into their brand, which I think is good.
Mm.
For sound, I think again it's like the music playlist that is playing in their store is very tailored to the type of customers that they're trying to bring into their store. But that would go for any big retail store, I would say. Whenever I was thinking about our conversation, and maybe this is a small anecdote that is interesting to share, but I was thinking about Urban Outfitters.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first time that I stepped foot into an Urban Outfitters, and it was a Jay-Z song that was playing. And I still remember the feeling that I got. Like I was so hyped up, and I was because it is a two-story store, and I was going up the stairs, and I remember feeling so cool when I was going up those stairs just because of the music that was playing. And it was my first time in the store, right? And automatically it made me a lifetime customer of Urban Outfitters. So it's like those tiny little decisions, right, that can definitely convert an audience to being a lifelong customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. This makes so much sense. I appreciate you sharing it. Now, people, the example which you gave about Lush or David T, I think they are primarily targeting one's senses, but along with that, they are also, trying to cultivate other senses simultaneously. But they are dominating in one sense specifically, so that now it captures people attention. Would that be fair to say? Like, are people unconsciously doing it? Are these brands unconsciously creating or tapping into those senses? Mm.
I think Lush is because their fragrance are so strong that they are very conscious about it. Lush also offers like that whole touch, right? Because you can try before you buy, and you can try the bombs and all that. So there's a big focus on that. That I think is conscious because they really want you to have the full experience and for you to validate the experience before you spend some dollar. Um, yeah, Lush actually, when you look at their whole model, is quite interesting. They're not doing things like other businesses are. But if you want me to think about like other um, businesses that are focusing on all of the senses at once, I mean, Disney would be a good one. if you want to get
Oh,
into that.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. I actually got a comment from one of our listeners from Clubhouse. Her name is Natasha. She's a long-time follower. She said Abercrombie, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Abercrombie and Hollister are always dark and have a strong cologne smell. Yeah.
Yes, that is part of their brand. Yes, this is a conscious decision.
Wow. Okay, so Disney is tapping into all those five senses. When you said about touch, I could remember a brand, IKEA. I feel that they strongly focus on the touch part because people come and really try to feel their furnitures, how the decor works and how it looks. Do you think they are also tapping into that specific sense, or is that more visual? Kind of confusing, you don't know what they're trying to do, sometimes.
Yeah, to me, that would be a bit more visual because you can physically see yourself within a space, and you can like try stuff. Touch would not, for me, for IKEA, would not necessarily be a good reference. I mean, you can still shop and touch stuff, but there's no particular sensory feeling with that.
Okay, so.
Whereas if you go
Uh-huh.
to Disney, right, like if you enter like a house with like fuzzy walls, like that is super sensory, like with the touch part.
Interesting. So, would you mind giving us another example which will be relevant to touch?
I mean, so that's the thing, right? Like because I feel like it's so new for
Mm-hmm.
branding that there's not
Much
that
examples
many
out there.
like distinct examples. But again, like I think Disney would be a good one where the touch, well, like where you can interact with like the mascots, right? Like that's a touch feeling. Like it's also like a connection. It's creating a connection. Sorry. Where we think about all the merch, right? Like it's going to be the same character, but in different materials. Like you find whatever is most appealing to you. It's tough because it's not everyone who is doing it, which that's why it's untapped. And after being deprived of a lot of our senses during a pandemic, this is why right now I feel like the world is seeking those experiences. Personally, where I see it using it the most is museums, because sensory also helps to teach, and museums are tapping into that. So then whatever they are showcasing is being like the information is being retained more, and that's why businesses need to tap more into that, because maybe they can teach and create stronger connections with their audience by utilizing sensory branding.
Yeah, that makes us a lot of sense. Actually, I appreciate you sharing those examples. I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, okay, just to give our audience and listeners some perspective, how collectively does all these five senses come into place and create that immersive experience in the end user's mind? And once it creates that experience, what does that entail into? How does the person react and respond according to you? Based on your experience, what do you have realized from people regularly following those traditional marketing techniques, and in comparison to this, what would be a major plus point you see in terms of reaction? Maybe a little long windy question, but I hope that makes sense.
There's a lot actually. So there's definitely memory. So because there is more than one sense that is being used at the same time, like you will stay top of mind because um, like even like I'm asking the audience now, can you remember a book that you have read maybe in your house compared to another book that you have read on vacation? Most likely you will remember the one that you have read on vacation because you were in a different setting. Maybe you were on the beach and you had the wind like blowing up in your face, and you had the smell of the water, the waves or salty air and stuff like that. You will remember that because your most of your senses were triggered, whereas at home you're used to that same environment and it's not triggered. So definitely memory. You will create brand loyalty as well, because it's you're again like creating deeper connection. Authenticity, if you can do it well and because it's creating deeper connection, then you will mostly emphasis on like the quality of the experience that you're offering. And emotional storytelling, I think this is the one that is the most important. Is multisensory experiences is a powerful tool to convey a brand story values, and it can truly communicate where you sit um, with your business. There's a lot more that if you want me to continue.
Yeah, why not? Well, let's hear you out completely.
Well, there's definitely differentiation as well, specifically now because no one is necessarily utilizing that like those strategies, and also just customer satisfaction. Like we love to, we're seeking experiences all the time. Like this is the reason why we live, right? So by doing that, just an overall satisfaction.
All right, that makes sense actually. So okay, so till the time a consumer does not actually interact with this specific brand, they would not have any idea that we are tapping into all those five senses. So for a brand who is fairly new and they do offer this multisensorial experience, how do you think they can communicate that with the audience so that they can engage and experience that?
So do you mean like how can they communicate that they offer a
Yeah.
multisensory
I mean, you
experience?
said clearly, it would definitely help them to differentiate from other brands. So definitely there is an upside to it. So if I'm, let's say starting a new business, okay, and I do have invested money, resources to offer that multisensorial experience. Okay, but I want people to come and engage now because I'm new fairly. What would I tell people to come and buy my thing instead of others because I offer something very distinctive? How would you explain that to others? Like, how would that communication go?
You definitely need to make it approachable in this, and you can't necessarily say multisensorial because from experience people don't know what that means yet. um, and I'm thinking about the experience that we had selling our zine, who is offering a multisensorial experience. We had to we had to explain what it meant, and we had to say, okay, it's using sight because of this, it's using touch because of this, it's using smell because of this. So I'm thinking for big brands, they would have to maybe do a lot of social media reels and truly showcase how it's being consumed to make sure that they fully understand. But
Do
once
you
it's
think, Izzy, it could be more unconscious? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you back there. Like for an example, let's take Apple for an example, or the Lush one which you just said. I don't think these guys are actually intentionally saying that my packaging is better, the way the product is placed is better, the aroma, the scent. It's just been unconsciously done, and when a person experiences it, it's like, wow, this is actually a great experience. Now those unboxing packages which we see on Apple shown on YouTube videos by YouTubers, they show like how the unboxing experience is better, not clumsy from others, right? Once a person experiences that fragrance, I think the individual would be like, this place really smells good, and it just remains into their senses. So yeah, what do you think about that? I'm so sorry. Did I cut you when you were trying to make a point? I'm so sorry, but this point came through, and I was like, I need to ask you.
so you said it right, like it's unconscious right now because people don't know what it is and don't realize that it's in front of them. So like to answer your first question, it would be to make them aware. You would need to have a campaign that explains what you're trying to do, and then you're hoping that the word would spread.
All right, okay. So yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I would definitely would like to get somebody from marketing their perspective as to what do they think about it. So if anybody from marketing, who specialize in marketing, if they are available, please do not hesitate to come up when we do Q&A, and let's pop that question and let's try to understand how that would work. Now, in your professional view, Izzy, is there any kind of industry or type of business you feel would personally benefit more from sensory branding?
I know this is probably not what you're expecting to hear, but any business that is online, anything that ships could have a multisensory experience attached to the like what is being sent. Could there be a specific, like let's say I order from Abercrombie, why can't I have a playlist of the month that is being sent to me with the clothing that I just bought? Right. And that's like creating that connection. It's like, wow. Or maybe it's even a song that is attached to a specific type of clothing. So whenever you're like wearing that, you're in that specific vibe. And they had made the conscious decision to match that song with that piece of clothing. Um, what else? Maybe there's even a scent in the box. So then as soon as you open it, maybe that cologne again, like it's not utilized in that sense. Could it even be well, I mean, we see now like there's a lot of jingles for logos, like Netflix is doing it whenever you open it. Maybe big brands can utilize that more. There's only a few that I can think of top of mind that has a jingle with their logos. um
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think about the touch one is a bit difficult because it, again, it's like you don't want it to be forced, you don't want it to be gimmicky. So it needs to be very conscious with that one. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean the visuals. Visual is that comes back to branding identity, right? And a lot of businesses are not doing that. So
Yeah, so
maybe
true.
start
So true.
there. Yeah.
I always say that, do your DIY thing, and then once the damage is done, then you come to us to fix it. So, I Izzy, these are like great points. So according to you, uh, there is, I mean, any industry or any type of businesses can benefit more from sensory branding depending upon what product they are offering. If it's a service based business, okay, then how would the sensory thing would apply for us? Because there's no physical product; it's just a service which is being offered, and the same service could be just a software, could be just consultation, or could be just you having a one-on-one conversation, or you training people. How would that work for this?
Yes, so that's when you have to be really mindful about your audience and you really need to know who they are. For service, it could be that you have a lot of audio components with what you're sending. It could even be like your slogan with a nice like music attached to your website, or even maybe your capabilities deck or something like that. um, Creating those repetitive touch points could help you. It's tough. I was talking to a what's the word I'm looking for? Real estate agent, and he wanted to do like a whole campaign, and we were trying to bring the senses like into it. And I'm like, why not just like put like the door hangers with a QR code and have a full video where you actually talk about the neighborhood that you're trying to sell the houses in. Just by doing that, I mean, it's still video, it's technically marketing, but having that engagement with the phone, with the QR code, and even like him talking instead of making people read is already a sense that is being triggered, right? Like the audio and the sight. And that's the thing. We don't need to necessarily push super hard to find ways to do it, but still people aren't tapping into it as they should.
Absolutely, I totally agree there. People are not tapping into this. As designer, let me ask you, and I have asked you this question before, but for the benefit of the listeners, Izzy, is there a reason why you decided to get into sensory branding? Is regular branding or brand identities or visual identities or regular stuff or strategy, was that not good enough that you went ahead with sensory branding? Not that it's a bad thing, but why did you jump into sensory branding? What made you realize that this can actually solve a major problem?
So it kind of happened by accident as I was working on the Ottawa Design Club zine. With the second edition, we wanted to just elevate the reading experience. And it so happened that the content of the zine was pop culture, and we were comparing how we consume pop culture to how we consume bubblegum, and how there was a lot of similarities between the two. So, as a way to elevate the storytelling, and again, we didn't have to think that hard, we decided to offer chewing gum with the zine. And we invited people to chew gum as they were reading the content of the zine. On top of that, because it is pop culture, the people that we have selected to feature in the zine, because it's all done through call for submission, we invited them to submit a song because we felt that pop culture is definitely a timestamp. So we created a playlist for people to listen to. Um, and yeah, chewing gum, reading the zine, touching, flipping the pages, and you would also smell the bubble gum as you're chewing it. So all the senses were being triggered all at once. And when we were trying to market the zine, we said, oh, well, it's a fully multisensorial experience. And just fell in love with the whole process because to me, for that specific project, there was a lot of creative thinking. And I found that my background in visual arts was very helpful in this specific project. So it just made sense. And I'm like, I think I have a knack for this. So why not try? And
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still trying. And because again, it's something that is untapped in right now. There's not that much research on it. There's not that many examples. Like even coming up with examples for this that triggers all of them at once, it's hard because it's still very new. Now, did I make things difficult for myself? Absolutely. But I don't know. I never take the easy way out for anything. So
That is so cool. That shows a really positive attitude, and I am glad that there is nothing out there, because we are going to be making some content around this. So I'm so happy that we would be doing this next month from November. Do I see Phyllis down in the audience? I want to say hi to Phyllis, my lovely, lovely friend, and she's gonna be on my show tomorrow, and we're gonna kick some butt. We're gonna speak about branding. She has come up with this new book, which I'm really, really excited to get my hands on digitally, because I don't think it can be shipped to India yet. So yeah, and I'm really happy to see Heather as well, who I see down in the audience. So thank you so much, Heather, and all my other good friends listening to this spectacular conversation. Now, I wanted to ask you, Izzy, that if a business is actually small, somebody who's just starting up, do you think it would be fair to ask them to get into multisensory branding immediately? Or do you think they should focus on their business first, get some traction and momentum, and eventually jump into sensory? I think I can't hear you though. Are you there? All right. So it might be just the connection. So yeah, so that was my question actually. I wanted to identify that, would it be like, what kind of entrepreneurs or businesses would benefit from this whole thing, and is it fair to start? Like for an example, if when people reach out to me to do identity system, I ask them, do you have everything else in place? Like The way the funnel system, how you acquire clients, customer service, all those nitty gritties, which you need to have like a good business. I ask them, whether you have taken care of those things. And I tell them is that first take care of those things and then you do identity and other things. Because if your foundation itself is not good, then whatever I do would be very ineffective if you don't have the foundation in place. So, Izzy, I don't know if you're able to fix that connection. Are you able to hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
I
Lovely.
don't know what happened there. But yeah, so for me, it's definitely something that I would talk about during the like brand strategy session, as we talk about how do you connect with the audience, right? Because that's the main reason why you would want to have a multisensory experience, multisensory branding. So, I mean, I wouldn't force it, but definitely if you have the chance to find some opportunities to create those experiences, then that can be explored at that time.
Okay, so yeah, so it doesn't matter. You mean to say like maybe I didn't hear the whole thing which you said. Okay, so let me just re-ask you that stuff again. So, does a new business need to go ahead and focus on this right away, or do you think they should take time and structure things before getting into sensory branding? Could you repeat that answer once again? You're on mute, Izzy.
Yes, okay, because you also cut out for me. Okay, so um, so does a new business need to, I mean, again, it depends on the type of business and it depends on how do they want to create connection with their audience.
Okay, okay,
Because if you force it, then it's like it doesn't work.
okay. Let's say that I'm a soap manufacturer. Okay, I'm a soap manufacturer. I want to get into these new soaps which I have created. I have like 4 or 5 different flavors, not flavors, but different kind of smells. Fragranted soaps available. So I mean, typically as a business owner, I would want the soap to smell a certain way. Okay, because I think that would be appealing for the opposite person, the person who is buying it. And I think through smell they unconsciously take a lot of decision around it. So even if I am not intending on focusing on sensory branding, but I'm unconsciously tapping into the sensory branding because that's one way of doing it. Now if you were to approach this individual, or this person was to approach you and say that, Izzy, what do I need to do? How would that conversation would be like? Do this, do that. Like, what would you say to that individual? I'm just brainstorming just to understand what would be the difference between the strategic approach that individual, that entrepreneur is trying to do, in comparison to what you would do. Is it a
So
tough question? No, I hope not.
so again, it depends on like their goals and what they're trying to do. But I mean, with soap, there's definitely this scent that is part of the main offer. So I would maybe try to push something on touch because you're using the soap and you're touching the soap, right? Like could there be a specific ingredients that maximizes, let's say, exfoliation, that is very very different than the like other soaps that and maybe that does entice like the touching and sensation like on the skin, right? It could be even the packaging or something crazy too, like doing a reverse assumption sometimes could be interesting in the fact in the sense that maybe the soap is like oats and something like that that is super good for your skin and hydrating, but make it smell like something that has no relation to oats at all. So there's kind of like that play, like, okay, what is the soap actually made of and why does it smell a specific way, and keep the people guessing, right? um it's tough to come up on like ideas right now, but if you want, I can tell you about a business strategy that I have built for a coffee shop that was fully multisensorial, and unfortunately the owner got scared and didn't do it. It would have been such a good business model. It would have been awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Please share that. I think people need to see this thing is fairly new, so I have my doubts personally. Okay, and that's why I'm asking you these questions. Because I personally feel there could be some loopholes and gaps. Okay, but I'm kind of convinced that this is a good thing. So let's hear that example out about that coffee shop, which was not brave enough to move ahead with your plan. Let's hear that.
So essentially, it was a coffee shop during the pandemic. They would do everything as a like pre-orders, right? And their whole they were local, and their whole goal was to elevate the local voices. Very artistic approach, right? Having artworks in the coffee shop space itself, having some specialty dishes at the same time, and having like it, and even in the touch sense, they would, with the pre-orders, they would also give you stuff to make your own recipes at home, right? So whenever we were talking about that, I had pitched the idea that they could have monthly or like 2 months exhibit with a specific artist, and then let the artwork inspire the cook, the chef, and have ingredients that mimics the colors of the artwork that is being featured. And the full menu would be called the same thing as the titles of each artwork that is being on the wall. So it's like you would be eating the art, right? Alongside that, you bring in a local musician to curate a specific playlist or music or even their own stuff. So maybe it's exclusive music, right? That you pair with that exhibit. And this is what is playing inside the coffee shop. And also, you can have a QR code to have that playlist at home when you're eating that order or whenever you're cooking it yourself, right? So that becomes a fully immersive experience from that coffee shop. And it changes all the time. So you're also building on that exclusivity urgency, that if you don't do it within those 2 months, then you have lost your chance. So maybe on the bigger scale, it's harder to see right now, but definitely on the smaller scale for small to medium businesses, there's definitely something that can be done and can be applied easily in order to, again, create deeper connection with the audience.
That's such a lovely example which you provided just now, because I think it makes a lot of sense. I think my personal opinion in this would be that I don't think it is very viable for small businesses, because maybe they don't have that kind of investment capability yet, because the business is fairly new. And maybe I would not personally recommend such businesses to get into it, because there is a lot of work. And medium to big size enterprises who are into this, maybe this would be a good idea. But I think having a specific individual or a department within the organization who looks at sensory branding and taps into that, researches about what's gonna work, and collectively, speaking to branding, marketing, the leadership team as a whole, I think that would make a lot of sense. Do you think that might be the right way of positioning sensory branding in an organization? Or do you think it should be independent on its own? Like, how would you segment this thing?
I think it's part of the full architecture. When you look at branding, it should not be segmented. It should always be looked at the full entity at the same time as looking at it like closely within each little touch point that you're offering. But I would definitely look at it from like a full architecture point of view personally, because all of the senses should be added into the touch points that it relates to, and it should be a cohesive
Or immersive
Like,
experience, cohesive
well,
experience.
cohesive, but it should elevate the storytelling, and at the core, like the storytelling and the full like core purpose of the business. That's again like that's at the center of it all. So I would not like no, I would not segment it at all.
I am with you. I think I follow you right now. Let's actually open up the space for Q&A. So is anybody listening to our conversation, if they would be interested in asking a question to Izzy, you're welcome to raise your hand and I will be happy to bring you up. Phyllis, Heather, Arkai, Natasha, Ravi Chandra, Adam, and everybody else listening to this conversation, please do not hesitate. We're just brainstorming. I'm just trying to figure this out, and I think it's super cool. There's something very interesting about sensory branding, which I never realized, which I'm realizing at this moment of time as we are speaking. So, thank you so much, Heather, for joining. Do you have a question for Izzy, or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Hi, Izzy.
Hey, thank you for being here. So good to see you.
You're welcome. So, I have a quick question about the connection of the brain to the smells and how that responds to memory and kind of how it evokes certain experiences. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So the smell triggers memory a lot. Like you will remember how your mother's cookie will smell. You will remember how um your aunt that you don't like her perfume. You won't, and then you associate those emotions with scents. So right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
So if you consciously make decisions as a business to create those connections, right, with your audience, and this is definitely untapped now, you can create lasting impression and stay top of mind with that scent. Specifically, if it's a scent that comes back regularly, like for instance, even what's the business? It's like Bath Body and Beyond. It smells a little bit like Lush when you walk past it, and like I know that it's Bath Body and Beyond whenever I'm passing it through, but it reminds me of Lush, and now I want to go buy Lush instead of uh, like Bad Body and Beyond. So it's funny how it triggers that. And if you want to even try like a personal experiment, whenever I'm traveling, I try to actually change my shower gel with a really specific scent, so that way I remember my trips in a different way. Whenever I buy it again, like that specific shower gel, it reminds me of the time that I was in Greece or Costa Rica and so on. um, so it's not just, I guess you can utilize that not just for branding,
For
but
brand,
also
for
personal.
yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I naturally do that anyway. I have different perfumes for different things that I do. It's interesting. I absolutely love this idea and the concept you have, and I can't wait to see where you go with it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Heather, do you have a follow up question you'd like to ask?
Well, that was, that was just my main question. I was just really curious about the brain connection because I know with branding and everything we do, we're in a nice way manipulating people all the time. Um, and I love this experience and this idea of tapping into the senses because I think we do it unconsciously anyway. And Izzy is taking something unconscious and making it a conscious choice. So
Yeah, I think
I think
that's
it's
super
great.
cool. I totally agree with you, Heather. It is super cool. It is super cool. I appreciate it. Please continue to be on stage. Let's actually move to the next individual on stage. Arkai, thank you so much for being here. Do you have a question for Izzy, or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Hey Jason, hey Izzy. I told you I'd be here, Izzy. I literally ran here once my meeting was done, but honestly, I just aligned with everything you were saying, and I think that's the thing, right? Like with branding, once you start infusing personalities into things, we can expand so much further into everything we can create. And every time you're sharing something, kind of reminded me of Johnny Cupcakes and how, if you walk into a store, it smells like cupcakes, even though it's a t shirt store. And you'd see him act like a crazy person, hiding and giving t-shirts to people, and even that kind of adds to more of a memory thing, more into the visual parts of things, of him being a weirdo and all. But yeah, like I think that's completely important as to whenever we start as as a branding experience and everything, it's crucial to tap into these sensory factors, because it's not just visual. And your shampoo example was truly amazing, so just here to say that.
Well, thank you so much. It's good to see you here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Arkai. So I want to say hi to Phyllis. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have a question for Izzy, or would you like to contribute?
Hey, honeys. I actually have a call in like 5 minutes. But Izzy, I love this whole multisensorial thing because I always tell my clients one of the things like at least add some sound to something, do something. So I love it that you're tapping into this. And my question is that do you see this as a more intense way for smaller businesses to compete with larger businesses? Because like I said, because they can quickly adapt to this whole sensory thing more or easier than bigger corporations, because corporations, they have to go through all the red tape and the rigmarole of getting approval. Do you think that smaller businesses can pivot and utilize this a lot quicker than big brands take hold of it?
You know what? I had never thought about it like that, but you like putting it in this scenario that makes so much sense. And absolutely yes.
Okay.
And it's again, right? Like, you know, with Marty Neumeyer, when he talks about like the rock paper scissor concept, that like the smaller businesses is actually a threat to the bigger businesses because
Yes.
people are seeking connection. Well, I mean, how much more can you create connection if you're utilizing all the senses, right?
Oh,
Like
I love it.
that nostalgia, that that music, all the senses makes us feel more. They even try, like I was thinking about the D box too in the theaters now for movies. Like they're really trying for you to be part of the story that is unfolding in front of you in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is gimmicky to me, but they're projecting smell, they're projecting, they're moving your seat, they're like, the sound is like divided in multiple ways like in the room. So yes, absolutely, and that's to create better connection with the storyline. So if small businesses can do that, absolutely.
I love it. Thank you, sweetheart. And like I said, I when I read it, multisensorial, I got it right away. But I'm all about sensory perception and knowing that people learn different ways and engage in different ways. So this is so on par with that. I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Phyllis. It means a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Phyllis, before you go, would you mind telling our listeners what can we expect next week's interview with you for the mini series?
Oh my goodness. We're going to talk about personal branding, but we're going to come at it from an aspect of you can't take this shit personally. Your personal brand is being an asset just like any other brand, and how do you use it strategically? It's not just about showing up, but it's about showing out just a little bit and taking all of these insecurities and posture syndrome, identity crisis, and actually putting it into a personal brand that you can live with. Because it's for me, it's about connecting the dots of life, brand, and business. And how you do that is you show up authentically in all three. So nobody can try and call you, oh, why you acting funny style? I don't know if y'all know what that means. But sweetie, if I'm acting the same all the time, you're just getting this version of me when I'm doing my business versus when I'm at home. I'm still the same person, but I don't have to bring all of me to the table. So we're going to talk about personal branding, but we're not going to take this shit personally. It's about making our money, and that's the thing. So that's what we're going to talk about.
I love this. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, October 18th onwards, and I think we will continue that till the 22nd of November. I think we could do a six-part series. We would dissect her book into six parts. We will speak about personal branding, at a stretch. So, I think I'm very excited about that conversation. And post that, I'm going to continue with Izzy's mini series interview starting from the 29th of November till December 27th. Every week, every Wednesday, instead of 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to do this at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's going to be fun. So I want to actually ask just one, a few questions actually, okay, to AZ directly, since we have everyone on stage. Now, when I was actually going through your bio, you did mention the Future Pro Group, the Ottawa Design Club, and the people you have met have been one of the greatest resources that have helped you along with the way. Would you mind sharing what these groups have actually done, and how you interacted with people? How did they, help you from a resource, being resourceful and stand out, and help you grow as an entrepreneur and designer?
Well, they say if you want to become like if you want to become someone, like hang out with the people that inspire you, not people who will bring you down. That's definitely, I mean, why I like have joined the Future Pro group. Not only are the connections there, everything that they share and talk about is just such a big learning experience, but it's also um, the connection and the support and I mean, I look at Heather here, who has like offered me opportunities and introduced me to so many people. Like Phyllis here, we're working together on a project with the New York Design Club. So it's like, I don't know. I'm like at a loss for word because I am so, so thankful for all of these opportunities. And at the same time, it personally, it has helped me to feel less alone in this business journey, because it's not everyone who understands like the sacrifice and the hard work that needs to go behind building your quote unquote empire. And it can be isolating a lot. So knowing that there's a group of people that I can, send a quick message to and be like, hey, this happened today, I'm feeling like shit. It's truly like heartwarming to know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so glad you're having this awesome experience, and people are helping you to lift yourself up, differentiate, make a difference in your life and others' life. That is really, really cool. Did you ever get the opportunity to actually discuss this kind of branding technique with Chris? And if you did, I wanted to understand what were his thoughts.
No, and I think he would eat me up probably. Not yet. I feel like I still need to dive deeper, makes a bit more research. I'm trying a lot of stuff myself with the Ottawa Design Club, full branding and events and the zines that are multisensorial. I'll also be giving a multisensorial zine workshop at the Ben Design Conference in 2 weeks. So I'm definitely testing a lot of stuff right now in order to make my own assumptions and kind of not rules, but just observations about this full thing, and then seeing how it can be implemented. And I'm definitely sharing my knowledge with my current clients, and I can't wait to see how they implement it back, and how they grow with their audience with it. So no, not there yet for the Chris Doe validator, if you want.
All right, all right, all right. I'm glad you're getting there, and we will try to figure it out when we do our mini series. I think we will dissect things, and maybe you would have more information to talk about through examples or how it would work. Let's figure this out. Now, along with that, I kind of always ask this question to most of my guests who I have interviewed on my show. If there is one thing you want to be remembered for, Izzy, in your life, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. So it's funny that Ariane just appeared now in the crowd, because we were talking about this this weekend. She went to Ariane. You should come up on stage. I know she hates that, but you should talk about your the show that you have, went to see in Montreal, and that artist. because the way she was talking about this artist, I'm like, that's exactly what I want people to say about me. And I think it was like along the lines of, I just don't know how he does it all. And like, so like, he's just so good. And like, he masters everything that he does. And I think like that's how personally I want to be remembered. But it, I mean, that's like a little intense, but at the end of the day, I just want to inspire people. If Izzy can be a synonym of inspiration, then I know that I can go to bed at night knowing that my mission has been done.
That is super cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, what do you think would be the toughest aspect for anybody who 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 is thinking about getting into sensory design? Uh, what do you think would be tough, like, for those individuals, based on your experience so far?
Um, well, the research part, because there's not a lot. Um, and it's like I said, it's not like a conscious, there's no papers on it. I think it's
Yet.
starting.
You mean
Yeah.
yet?
Yet. Yeah, that's it. Yet is like the big word here. I think it's starting, but it's not necessarily, sorry, it's there with marketing, as I said at the beginning, but it's not there for branding. So I think that that's the hard part, and it's having those ideas that you can build on that will definitely like help a business stand out and create connection and storytelling and all that, like with their audience. So that's definitely a challenge, is also finding what will resonate. And this full process too is definitely an iteration game. You need to, try, pull back, try again, until it sticks, like any branding strategy, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I see Mr. LJ who has joined the conversation. LJ has been my coach, my podcast coach, the guy who really helped me to get into this. LJ, I have done over 111 episodes so far, and I have recorded over 8,000 minutes of content on my podcast. All thanks to you for kicking my butt and to make it happen. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to contribute to this conversation, or do you have a question for Izzy?
Yeah, well, first of all, you don't have to introduce me in such a thank you. I'll just say thank you. Yeah. I think that when it comes to branding, one of the things that to his point though, when you talk about try, iterate, try, fail, adjust, that's one of the things that's so important. People just spend so much time being overly critical as to like the product when they haven't really done enough work to see if it's even one, something they're going to be naturally good at, and two, they don't have enough data points to make a decision. So when it comes to me, I'll be honest, like when I first started my first show, um, I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, business, things of that nature. And what was really interesting recently is that I started to brand basically just focusing on service members, military members, because outside of my, my public persona and things I was doing, I was working with a lot of vets, privately. And it kind of clicked. It was like, yo, like if I'm helping these guys privately, why shouldn't I help them out publicly? And that really did blow up my network and just the people that I'm connecting with. So my my charge or my call would just be to make sure that if you're doing things you're interested in and there's already a community out there of people that could benefit from what you're doing, then figure out who those people are and figure out what's important to them and not necessarily what's important to you. Because if you look at LinkedIn, and this, I don't know what you guys covered so far, so I don't want to disrespect anybody on stage, but I feel like a lot of the rhetoric that we see, just not on LinkedIn, but just in general, is so narcissistic and focused on the individual that's providing the content versus the people that they're there to serve and the people that they're there to help. And I think that people can pick up on that. We're not, we're all adults in here, right? So we're not dumb. We know what's real and what's not. So that's, I don't know if you guys already covered any of those topics, or if I've and that's one thing I do love about podcasting, and I love about my show, is that different perspectives, different takes on things doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else was wrong. It's just not. It's not right for me. So hopefully I didn't say too much, Jay.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate this very very much. And what I like to do now, Izzy, is that let's actually do a rapid fire round. All right, let me play that sound effect. Where's the sound effect for rapid fire? All right, so on rapid fire section, what I typically do is I ask you a few questions related to the topic of the conversation, or something random and general. And I don't want to take too much time, but let me know what your thoughts are when you hear the question. Okay, so my first question to you, Izzy, is that if you could give one brand a complete makeover using only sensory elements, which sense would you prioritize and why? Okay, you're on mute, Izzy,
More.
just in case. What was that?
That is so weird.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Yeah, you're fine. You go ahead.
Okay. Every time I get asked that question, I say Pepsi, just because if it can beat Coca-Cola, that would be a massive achievement. I think there would be a lot of cool opportunities with Pepsi that could be. And the funny thing is I don't even drink pop at all. So, but yeah.
Hey, Jay, could I ask a follow-on question? Because that was
Yeah.
a really great question, but it
Yeah.
got me thinking.
Sure.
It kind of brings some things up for me. So when I was in high school, I believe, or maybe middle school, my aunt was going to college, and she had to write a overly descriptive paper as it relates to the beautiful Ella just walked in. 1 second, babe. Uh, she had to write a beautiful paper about just walking into her, like, 'cause we used to have cookouts all the time. And so she wrote this paper where, like, the five senses need to be and it was like very simple, just opening a slide door, walking in, and getting a plate of food. But the way that she expressed herself in that paper was incredible. So is that what you guys have been covering so far, as like descriptive language and creating like a very vivid feeling around the marketing messaging? That's what when you were talking about like the five senses, that's what came up for me.
Yes and no. So we have been covering how senses can have a role into like the full branding like strategy of a business, and how it can create deeper connections with the audience, and how it is underutilized at the moment for most of the businesses. And there's a lot of opportunities that could be easily added. And we have also talked about that it's definitely a new thing. There's not a lot of research on it. Help me out, Jason. Like, did I forget anything?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. How to tap into those five senses like sight, sound, smell, taste, and how we can use those five senses to craft a much more immersive experience for brands. And based on the conversation we had with Phyllis just a while back, we realized that small businesses can actually have an upper hand to differentiate themselves from bigger businesses, and can really offer them a big challenge because of that sensory elements which they offer.
Oh, this is great, man. I'm gonna have to rewatch this, re-listen to this when you post it, bro. I'm excited.
Yeah, I appreciate that very, very much, LJ. So getting into the rapid fire questions once again. So Pepsi was the thing which you shared, and that is super cool. Okay. Now I know as a designer you go through a lot of places to find inspiration. What's the most unusual place or unexpected place you have found an inspiration, maybe for a client or a project you've been working on?
So you know what? I have been shopping a lot recently because I have a lot of speaking stuff coming and just like being in front of people, events. And I found some inspiration in the changing rooms that I was trying the clothes at. um, because I noticed that all of them have a very different experience based on the store, and it's not necessarily done well, but the ones that I thought were really well done and thought for the audience, the consumers, I took some pictures of. So that's definitely kind of weird, I guess.
That is definitely weird, but I'm glad you got some inspiration from there. All right. So my next question to you is that if you were into professional wrestling for a change, okay, not into sensory branding, let's keep that aside. If you were a professional wrestler, what would your wrestling name be?
I don't know, bulldozer or something.
Hey Jay, you know it's funny. I feel like I'm messing up your rapid fire because every time you ask a question, I'm like, "That's a really good question," and then I want to ask a follow on, and then like her response makes me want to ask another question. So I'm sorry.
Go
Go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, the thing that she mentioned about the man, this is such a great topic because when you go into a place, the ambiance is what I'm thinking of when I'm hearing her talk about this. So like if you go in there, everything matters. Like even like this is gonna sound weird, but even the bathrooms. Like if I go into a place and their bathrooms aren't eloquent, like aren't like pristine, I'm like, yo, this place nasty. I'm not coming back here. Like it's like little things like that. And as a business owner, you got to get down to the granular level and think about those type of things and how people feel when they're not in front of you, right? Those kind of things. So, anyways, I'm sorry. That's what came up for me. Bye. I'll go back on mute.
All right, all right, all right. You know, guys, if you're listening to this conversation, please do not forget to follow Izzy. Send her a hi. Try sending her a connection request. And if you do have a business or a brand, and if you were trying to tap into these senses, the five senses to create an immersive brand experience, do reach out to her. And last but not least, do follow me as well. That social currency or the social validation and proof does help only and only if you're enjoying the conversation which we're having today. All right, moving on next to the rapid fire question. So you said bulldozer being a professional wrestling name. That was really funny. Okay. Let me ask you another funny question, but related to Future Pro Group. Who is the funniest person whom you have come across in the Future Pro Group, and you would not even think twice to sit next to this person and have fun?
Pedro. Oh man, I'm blanking on his last name. Hold on. I'm so sorry, Pedro. Pedro, that's it. Ruiz. Um, he is an AI expert, and when he starts talking about AI, he's like this machine that won't stop. But it's so interesting that you don't want him to stop. And so he is part of the my Future Pro Hoop cohort, and it's funny because sometimes he'll even put a timer for himself, like for when he can speak, so he doesn't hijacks like the full meeting. It's really funny, and we love Pedro so much. So yeah, Pedro definitely.
All right, all right. Let's talk about food, because I've been hearing a lot of example about cupcakes and stuff like that. Okay, what's the weirdest food combination you secretly love?
Spicy mayo on everything.
Spicy mayo on everything. Okay, let me ask
Yeah.
LJ the same question too. LJ, if you had to answer this question, because this was kind of a common question I wanted to ask everyone on stage, and since you're the only person left, so LJ, what's your weird food combination you secretly love?
Oh, that's a great question. I just had a conversation about this yesterday. I don't know if it's weird because a lot of people don't like mustard, and I love me some mustard. So I'm like, what is going on? So, but I guess if you mix, I don't know if it's a weird combination though, but like I like to mix ranch with what is it? Ranch with ketchup when I'm eating my fries. So that's, I don't know if that's weird, but it's really really yummy. So I eat it anyways.
Yeah, I'm
I
not a.
would do that too. I
Yeah,
would do
you
that too.
would.
Ketchup. Oh, I'm Canadian. Ketchup on everything too.
Well, that's the thing is that I usually don't like ketchup, but if you got ranch, then I'll be like, all right, well let me get the ranch and the ketchup, and I'm gonna make my little concoction over here.
Absolutely. I am not a big fan of mustard, but if it's chicken nuggets, I would definitely would like to have that with mustard.
You ever
Just
had sauerkraut with on like a hot, like when you start talking to people from the East Coast about hot dogs, they really get passionate and upset if you don't eat your hot dog a certain particular way. Yeah, just, you didn't know that? I'm just letting you know.
nah, no
Yeah.
idea at all.
By the way, about the question you asked her about her wrestling name, what was it, Bulldozer?
Yeah.
What would be like your finishing move, and what would be your tagline? Like The Rock had the people's elbow, and he was like, "Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?" So I was just wondering if you know anything about wrestling, then you got to have a tagline and a finishing move.
I have not thought this about this before. um,
It's a whole Jason experience, you know.
yeah, seriously. No, no. If I need to have a tagline, I would probably change my name. Like I just said that, like bulldozer, but I don't know. It could be like you've been bulldog. I don't know, like bull. I don't know.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. No, we're gonna work on that. I have That's pretty good. I'm not even gonna answer that question because I feel. Back to you, Jay. Back to you. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to actually give Izzy the opportunity to speak about the upcoming event and a few other things. She wanted to promote on my podcast. So let's actually get into that. How can first of all people reach out to you, Izzy? What's the best way if an entrepreneur wants to hire you for something?
So you can definitely send me a message over here on LinkedIn, or you can always check out my website. I have a full booking Calendly system over there, and you can reach out to me via email. If you just want to follow, I'm mostly active on Instagram. My handles are at arty_Izzy. That's my personal one. Lots of cat stuff on there. And my business one is design_IP. And as for promotion, can I jump into promotion right
Yes,
away?
absolutely.
Okay, so there's a lot of things coming. So I'll be at the Ben Design Conference giving a multisensorial designing impactful zines workshop. So it's going to be great. It's going to be like a mystery box with design elements, and people have to build a sensory book with what they have in front of them.
Okay.
Um, uh, I would also like to promote the next zine of the Ottawa Design Club, which is coming out on November 8th. The theme for that zine is Renaissance, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So if you like design and meaningful stories, definitely check that out. Ariane is still in the audience. We have worked so hard on it. And yeah, it's I think we definitely elevated our zine with this last one. And also, I have a community show on Adobe Live. It's called Creative the Zine. I'm already halfway, but you can always watch the replay. My next live show is on October 24 and ending at the end of November. So we're creating a zine together with some mascots, and it's super fun, it's super cute. And I feel like I'm forgetting stuff, but just follow me. Just follow me. It's going to be there.
Yeah, the zine thing, is pretty cool, guys. I've actually seen the Adobe Live video, and I think the character she developed was pretty cool, and I really love the way the color variations and stuff like that. So I think if you were to hit Izzy up, a DM her, I think she should be able to send you all the links for the Adobe Live videos, the event, and stay in touch. Actually, I would be posting when we would be close to the event day for the mini series. I would be posting stuff here on LinkedIn, and we will do that mini series also. And hopefully we would be able to offer you the content in a much more structured way when it comes to dealing with those five senses individually at a time. Is there anything you want to leave my listeners with? If you could leave our listeners with one thing that they can take away from this whole conversation we had, including the cupcakes, the professional wrestling, the spicy mayonnaise, which you spoke about, and all those other fun things, what would that be?
Well, definitely bulldozer. But no, seriously, I would say be mindful about like the senses that you use and the experiences that you have whenever you're, out and about, and like measure them, right? Like how does those experiences and your senses that you're using are impacting your decisions and all that. And I'd love to have a conversation about it, if you're open to it, like in a private DM or something like that.
All right, then that sounds really, really cool. I want to thank each and every listeners for listening to our conversation till the very end. Thank you so much. We appreciate your love and support. I had a fantastic conversation with Izzy. I learned quite a lot about sensory branding, and we would get into this more when we do the mini series. Till then, I wanted to say, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're in the world, guys. Please take care of yourself. Have a nice day. God bless you all.